Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Certainly. Deploying Azure Logic Apps, standard, using Bicep and Azure DevOps allows you to achieve infrastructure as code, IAC, practices and automate your deployments. This tutorial will guide you through the process step by step. Prerequisites. 1. Azure account, you'll need an active Azure subscription. 2. Azure DevOps account, create an Azure DevOps account if you don't have one. 3. Bicep CLI, install the Bicep CLI on your machine. You can follow the Bicep installation guide, https://docs.microsoft.com/n-a-azure/azure-manager/bicep/install. 4. Azure CLI, install the Azure CLI for authentication and deployment. Step 1, create a Bicep file for your Logic app. First, you need to define the Logic app in a Bicep file. Below is an example of a simple Logic app definition in Bicep. Logicapp.bicep. Step 2, create a Logic app definition. You need to define the workflow for the Logic app. Here's an example of a simple Logic app that triggers when an HTTP request is received. Workflow definition.json. Step 3, set up Azure DevOps pipeline. 1. Create a new repository. Create a new repository in Azure DevOps and push your Bicep file and Logic app definition to it. 2. Create a new pipeline. In Azure DevOps, navigate to Pipelines and click on New Pipeline. 3. Select your repository, choose the repository where you pushed your files. 4. Configure your pipeline. You can use the following YAML configuration. Azure Pipelines.yml. Step 4, configure Azure DevOps variables. In Azure DevOps, configure the following variables in the pipeline settings. Service Principal ID, your Azure Service Principal ID. Service Principal Key, your Azure Service Principal Key. Tenant ID, your Azure Tenant ID. Step 5, run your pipeline. 1. Save the YAML pipeline configuration. 2. Click on Run to start the pipeline. 3. Monitor the pipeline execution in Azure DevOps. If everything is set up correctly, the Logic app should be deployed to your specified resource group. Step 6, verify deployment. Once the pipeline has completed, you can verify the deployment by navigating to the Azure portal. 1. Go to Resource Groups. 2. Select your resource group. 3. Look for your Logic app under Logic Apps. Conclusion. You've successfully deployed an Azure Logic app, standard, using Bicep and Azure DevOps. This approach allows you to maintain your Logic app's infrastructure as code, making it easier to manage, version, and automate deployments. Feel free to extend the Logic app workflow or enhance the pipeline with additional features like testing or notifications based on your requirements.